This video that you just saw right now was shot on the Poco X3 and it was all unedited. Welcome to the Xiaomi Poco X3 camera review. If you are new on my channel, please subscribe and press the bell icon. Also, if you find this video useful at some point, do hit the thumbs up button too. Poco X3 brings 4 rear cameras embedded inside a very unique camera design. The main camera on this phone is a 64 megapixels camera sensor, while the remaining camera details are on your screen. It's got a 20 megapixels camera on the front. This phone is using the image processing of the Qualcomm Snapdragon 732G chipset. Poco X3 uses Poco Launcher and has a slightly different camera application from the typical Xiaomi phones. Camera app welcomes you with a 16 megapixels photo mode with the ultra wide and the zoom options on screen. Remaining camera options for this mode reside under this options menu at the top. From here you can change the movie frame, select macro camera, turn on the timer and do a few other things. "64 megapixels camera mode does not appear here anymore. It has moved under the more options, and this also shows the impracticality of this mode. The company itself has put it far away. Under the more options, you can find the night mode, short video, panorama, front and back mode, slow motion and a long exposure mode. Long exposure mode is a really good option, and here it shows you different options. For example, you can find the moving crowd, the neon trails, the oil painting, light painting and the starry night options. And yes, there is a star trails mode as well. To use a long exposure, you can use a tripod. That would be helpful. Clone mode can be used to clone anyone or yourself in a photo. You can shoot videos of up to 4K at 30 frames per second in both the wide and the ultra wide modes. This phone can do 1080p at 60 frames per second in both wide and the ultra wide modes too, and 30 frames per second mode option is there as well. And no, you cannot switch between ultra wide and the wide camera while recording a video. Front camera can do videos up to 1080p at 30 frames per second only. Pro mode offers pro video mode as well. You can change the white balance, manual and autofocus, shutter speed, ISO exposure and change the lens. This phone can capture raw images as well. And here is your look at the camera settings. Alright, our camera app walkthrough is complete now. Let's move towards the image quality of this phone. First of all, here is your look at a 64 megapixels mode image. In this mode, the HDR does not work. You cannot zoom in or out. The image in this mode is going to be full of details because of its big size. When I zoom in, you can clearly see each and every single element on the screen. To make the best use of this 64 megapixels mode, what you can do is you can capture an image and crop in to zoom. This is a better idea rather than zooming in while capturing an image, because zooming in will definitely damage the graphics. But if you just crop in an image, it's going to give you a much better result. But when I switch to the normal mode on this phone, the image brightens up all of a sudden and this looks slightly better. Details are not too bad, but they are not as good as the 64 megapixels mode. Here is your look at the 64 megapixels and the normal images side by side. For this image, there is a clear difference, but the upcoming images will explain this better. Ideally, there shouldn't be any difference between both the modes except for how both phones capture the dynamic range and the difference between the details. In this image, you can clearly see that everything looks almost the same. It's just a different level of sharpness on both the sides. The 64 megapixels image keeps looking a bit dull. The same goes for this image. If you focus on the whites here, they look much better in the normal mode of the phone. Here is another 64 megapixels versus the normal image, and this time the normal image seems to have more details. a comparison of ultra wide and the wide camera to give you guys an idea about both camera angles. And here is my own ultra wide image. I did not find the ultra wide cameras of the Xiaomi phones any good until I saw this image taken on the Poco X3. This image is not very good with the details, but as far as the color tone is concerned, Xiaomi has improved the things a lot. The same place and the same image in the normal mode, we get more details in this one. And now the same image in the portrait mode has the cleanest look among these three images. Here is your look at all these images side by side. You can clearly see that the portrait image looks the best, not just because of its background blur, but because of maintaining a clean look of the subject. Some more normal images are on your way. The overall result is quite acceptable. The only problem that I have noticed on this phone so far is that it can sometimes overdo the highlights. It completely washes out the background and the sky in some of the situations. Otherwise, its edge detection, colors, sharpness and saturation is good enough in its normal camera mode. The indoor performance is good, but as I mentioned, it can overexpose some areas. Now, if you try to look through the windows, you will find out that the highlights appear brighter while the shadows appear darker. Xiaomi could do a bit better with the dynamic range of this phone here. Take a look at the night mode images now. Night mode makes a huge difference on this phone, and the images look good too. But the images are not as crisp as they should have been. As I keep mentioning that I tested the Poco X3 along with two other phones, I found the result of the OnePlus Nord's night mode way ahead of the Poco X3. And you will see that in the camera comparison too. So the Poco X3's night mode is only good as long as you have not seen something better. In these images you can see that it's not maintaining the details in the non-night mode. Some of the elements in the images are being blurred while the night mode tries to fix that very thing. Macro camera of this phone is far from good. Xiaomi definitely needs to work hard on that. The front camera now, it tries to capture details, it also tries to maintain a close to real life skin tone. But what it doesn't try to do is to maintain a real look on the face. The face looks too soft. Some of you will like it, but the users who like a natural look won't find it good enough. Personally, I'm not a big fan of selfies, so it really doesn't make a difference to me. I like what the Xiaomi Poco X3 is capable of, and I believe most of the users are going to love its front camera result. Its front camera portrait mode is also praiseworthy. The edge detection is also quite decent. Drop your comments below about this phone's front camera. Okay, the videos now. This phone can do 4K at 30 frames per second and it has the EIS, which makes the videos look stable. Resolution is on your screen. The 4K videos can be shot in the ultra wide mode too, and as I mentioned, you cannot switch between the normal and the ultra wide mode while recording a video. 1080p 60 frames per second video mode also works for both the ultra wide and the wide cameras, but the EIS does not work in this mode. 1080p at 30 frames per second mode in both the normal and the ultra wide mode has got the EIS too. The resolution enormously goes down, but the footage becomes extremely stable. You will now take a look at the front camera sample. Hi guys, this is the front camera video from the Xiaomi Poco X3. I got a chance to bring this phone on a vacation with me, and along with this phone I am carrying the OnePlus Nord and the Galaxy M51. Now I am trying to shoot as diverse footage as possible, but there are some instances where I have to shoot at the same location on all the three phones. So make sure that first of all you don't mind if you are seeing the same footages in other videos, because I am using the same phones in the same locations. Now about this camera, front camera. This is shooting at 1080p at 30 frames per second. Now it's been a while since I've been wanting some better resolution options from Xiaomi, but Xiaomi is still stuck with the 30 frames per second and the Full HD resolution. Even the OnePlus in its Nord offers 4K at 60 frames per second from its front camera, but the Poco X3 is still at 1080p at 30 frames per second, and right now I am not finding the dynamic range very good, and you guys are the better judge for the mic's voice recording quality and also the color composition and the overall color tone of this image. So take a look around and let me know how are you finding the front camera's video recording quality of the Xiaomi Poco X3. I am walking so that you can get an idea about its stability as well. And that, my friends, brings our camera review to an end. Poco X3 is offering a 64 megapixels lens with Snapdragon 732G chipset. The 64 megapixels mode itself might be useless, but the pixel binning mechanism has helped this phone perform great under low light conditions, especially very good night mode photos for this price. Poco X3 takes better images than the Redmi Note 9 series. It even takes better images than the Samsung Galaxy A31 and the A51. Until and unless a better phone comes out in the same price bracket, the Poco X3 is going to be the ultimate king with the help of its remaining specifications, and it definitely gets my recommendation. Share your thoughts about this phone's camera and about this video under the comment section below. If you loved this video, please subscribe, and if you liked it, please thumbs up. With that said, I will sign off and see you all in the next video.